Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. We are live at lunch. Hopefully, you've had some lunch. I didn't have breakfast. Actually, I had a banana for breakfast. So I had lunch, which is good because my brain doesn't work when I don't have food. So come on in and tell me what you're eating for lunch. Start putting in your immigration questions. Estamos aquí hoy para contestar preguntas de inmigración. Me gustaría saber también si está comiendo su lonche, porque hoy estamos aquí en la hora de lonche. Se me olvidó comer desayuno, entonces tuve que comer un poquito antes de empezar hoy. Pero estamos aquí para hablar de los cambios que van a venir bajo Trump. 60 días antes de que él entra. We are 60 days out from a Trump presidency, Trump 2.0, as I'm referring to it. Many people are. So I want to know if you're prepared. I want to know what you're doing to get prepared. I want to know what steps you're taking, who you're talking to, and we are here to answer any questions you might have as you're making preparations for Trump 2.0. Estamos aquí para recordarles que es importante estar preparados para los cambios que van a venir cuando entre Trump. Entonces, sabemos que va a haber muchos cambios y queremos dar información, espero poder explicarlo para que se entiende. Alguna de la información va a ser muy complicada y voy a luchar para hacerlo en español, pero estamos aquí para apoyarlos y contestar sus preguntas, así que hay que poner sus preguntas en los comentarios y voy a contestar. A question from AA, can you lose your citizenship? So anyone who was not born here, well, let's back up. If you were born here under the Constitution, you have what is called birthright citizenship. This is something that Trump has been saying that we should take out of the Constitution because he believes that people come here in order to have a baby so that then they can later immigrate. What most people don't understand is you have to wait until your baby is 21. And then there's many reasons why you might not qualify even after waiting more than 2 decades. So birthright citizenship is still in the Constitution for now. I'm curious to see if that will actually, it's, quite a process. You can't just the president can't just take it out of the Constitution. There's a legal process for that requires Congress and the states to all agree in it. So I'm curious, if we're heading that direction, who that would mean, who no longer has citizenship. Would they go backwards, make it retroactive, or would it be just, starting whenever they do it? So for now, birthright citizenship in the U.S. is safe. If you were born here, you're a citizen. There's other ways to become citizen. Usually starts by becoming a permanent resident and then eventually applying for naturalization to become a U.S. citizen. So the question that AA is having here is, can you lose that? And generally the answer is no. They generally don't go back in, reopen it, and see if you should lose it. There are laws that allow immigration to go back in if they suspect that someone has committed fraud in the process, either on purpose or on accident. There's many different ways to commit fraud, either on purpose or on accident. So historically, there's been 11 of these cases each year where USCIS has gone in to try to denaturalize, to take away the citizenship. It's very, very small percentage, obviously. Under Trump, those numbers went up, and Stephen Miller has said that they're intending to do more of that this in Trump 2.0. So I think we'll see potentially people, having to fight in the courts to keep their citizenship. I'm also curious to see what happens with birthright citizenship. So thank you, AA, for your question. Había una pregunta si se puede perder la ciudadanía y estuve explicando que para el momento en la Constitución las personas que nacieron aquí son ciudadanos, pero Trump ha hablado de tal vez quitar esa enmienda a la Constitución. Él solo no lo puede hacer, tendría que obtener el acuerdo de los estados y también el Congreso, pero para el momento, si se nace aquí, es ciudadano. Hay otras maneras de llegar a ser ciudadano también, normalmente por medio de la residencia. Después de tener la residencia cierto tiempo, se puede pedir ser ciudadano. Entonces, personas están hablando de qué tal si van a empezar a quitar la ciudadanía de las personas que recibieron su ciudadanía por medio de después de residencia. Y hay un proceso, pero es muy complicado. Yo no creo que va a ser muy posible, muy probable, pero dicen que quieren hacerlo. So AA, you had a follow-up question. If you forget to mention a police report in the N400 that you were not arrested or charged. So this is a great example of a possible situation where they could say that you committed fraud. You did not disclose this arrest or charge. So usually these things come out when the fingerprints are taken, right? Because that if it was here in the US, that should come up. But if for some reason it didn't get caught and then later they find out about it, they could undo that and try to take your citizenship away, try to deport you. So make sure you're talking with an immigration attorney. If you have any concerns about the way that you got your residency or any concerns about how you maybe got your citizenship. So definitely be talking with an attorney. That is one of the action steps that we are recommending that people take in the next 60 days before Trump takes office. You have time, but the time is going down day by day, is to talk with an immigration attorney, whether that's us or someone else. Make sure that you know all of your options so that you can make informed decisions and make a plan. We don't know to what extent Trump will fulfill his promises of mass deportation, what that will look like. I don't know if you saw this week, I actually put up a video about this, but it got taken down because I said a word that starts with N and ends with I. And apparently can't use that word to talk about Trump now. But they've been talking about building these camps, right? I call them concentration camps. And now apparently the Trump people surrounding Trump are telling him stop talking about the camps because it makes them sound like the word that starts with the N and ends with an I. So yes, we'll see, exactly how far they're going to go, who will stop them. And between now and then, one of the action steps we recommend is that you talk with an attorney so you know all of your options. Munchie's got an advanced parole through I-45. Is it safe to use it? Yes. I would be ready to come back before January 20th. I personally am hoping to travel over the holidays and would definitely be back before January 20th. We just don't know what changes are going to take effect even on day one. So definitely use your advanced parole if you are interested and want to. As long as I take that back. As long as you've talked with an attorney, some people file an adjustment of status on their own and also request the travel permit, even though if they use it, they're going to trigger certain bars that will then make them ineligible for adjustment. So make sure that you've talked with your attorney about whether you actually qualify for departure on advanced parole. That would be very, very important. Hate to see you get stuck out, or just for taking a little holiday, you are no longer eligible. So the process for immigrant visas, I'm not sure if you're talking about outside the country, like through the consulate. Of two people who have not been called for interviews. The wait times for interviews at the consulate just depends on the consulate, depends on, how many officers they have processing, how many applicants they have. But if you're talking about in the U.S., we definitely believe that there will be a slowdown in the U.S. because under Biden, certain cases were not required to have interviews, but now we think that there will be interviews for those. So it's going to take longer. Obviously, it's more work that they have to do. They have to schedule these interviews and process them. Okay, someone wants their U.S. citizen brother. Where did that go? Man, sorry guys. I got tons of comments, but I just lost the one that I had. Dice Manchis, tengo visa U, apliqué para la residencia, tengo Advance Pro, ¿qué tan seguro es usarlo? Sí, hay manera de usarlo con la visa U, pero recomiendo hablar con su abogado para confirmar que se puede sin consecuencias. Lose your boyfriend's wife passed away. I'm sorry to hear that. And he was in the process of probably through his mom. Definitely talk with an attorney about that. Sometimes there are options for that. Your husband's FOIA says he was removed, but he has never been in immigration custody. That's annoying. They might have the wrong person. I don't know. We usually do our FOIAs based on fingerprints for that reason, because it could be a common name. So if it pulled it up with his fingerprints, it might just be wrong. I don't know. Talk with an attorney about that to figure out the next steps for that. So Beo is asking, if someone gets deported, can they come back later if their spouses sponsor them to come back? So after you've been deported, there are certain penalties, and you'll require certain waivers in order to avoid those penalties. You may or may not qualify for those waivers if you've been deported. So you'll definitely want to talk with an immigration attorney about getting that started. It makes the process much longer if you do need a waiver. And of course, all that time you're going to be required to wait outside the country. Yes, I'm always like, do I respond to people that don't have immigration questions but just want to like spew hate or whatever? But I am getting a lot of pushback from people who are like, why are you on here? Why this is fear mongering? You're just trying to get people afraid. It's nothing's going to happen. Just wait and see what happens. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course, but I feel a duty, a responsibility as an immigration attorney who survived Trump 1.0, who knows, what is coming under Trump 2.0. The truth is we don't know exactly what will happen. I am hopeful that there will be still some checks and balances in the courts and in society in general, that there will be pushback and that he'll be limited in what he can do. But we don't know. And so I'd rather people be over-informed, over-prepared, have a plan. If this happens, this is the way that I'm going to respond, so that the family, number one, feels sense of control. When we're anxious, the more control that we have, the more peace we're going to feel. So and so that can serve then for, because Diane, I would assume that you're not in a situation where you have an immigrant spouse or family members who are freaking out right now. So that's easy for you to say, like, just wait and see. Not everyone has that privilege, Diane. So I'm on here, doing what I can. This is also a way for me to manage my anxiety, to feel like I'm doing my part to get out information. And I'm going to try to be as, sensible and as balanced as I can. And we'll know more, obviously, once he takes office. But we've already seen what he did under Trump 1.0. It was extremely damaging to immigrants and to the immigration processes. And we know what he's promised, and we know what Project 2025 says. So I don't think that I am saying anything that is too extreme. And I'll just leave it at that. It's not fear mongering. This is information for people to be prepared. And if it doesn't apply to you, please scroll on. You probably voted for Trump. You're probably excited to see what he's going to do to, removing people that you feel like don't have a right to be here. And you're going to be one of the ones, along with all of us, suffering the consequences of what mass deportations will do to our communities, our neighborhoods, our economy, prices of groceries, all of it. People just have not thought this through. Yeah, thank you, MVS. It's called preparing. It's calling be prepared. And for people that it doesn't impact, you don't need to be prepared. You can scroll on, but people that need to be prepared, that's why we're here. All right. So Sexy Tasha, I love it. How long after doing the I-45 interview would it take to hear from USCIS? So previously, when they were doing interviews, usually you could get a same day approval. Sometimes if you had someone that was in training or maybe a complication in your case, a supervisor would have to review it. And then like a couple weeks to a couple months later, you would get an approval notice. But it does just extend the time because there are limited resources, a limited number of officers, depending in which district office. So adding that to the end of the processing is going to extend the amount of time that it takes to process an application. Ali, por favor, todos los que están aquí no hagan caso de lo que dice esta señora. Wow. Thanks, Ali. Can you make an appointment with us? Definitely 541-653-8899. Vina, we're located in Springfield, Oregon, but we serve clients all around the world. Immigration is federal law, so you can choose an attorney wherever you want. And we're happy to help. Sorry, just some of you guys are going at each other in the comments. I'll leave you to it. Erfan, congratulations, you married a U.S. citizen. Your papers are going in next week. I'm glad that you're getting that done now. That's a great next step for you. Baby A, can you file your I-45 while your waiver is still pending? So hopefully you're working with an attorney. You don't usually file a waiver first when you're filing an I-45. That's for people who qualify to adjust status, get a green card here in the US without leaving the country. So it sounds like if you have a waiver, you probably need to not do the I-45. You need to wait until that waiver is approved and then finish the consular processing. But it is a complicated multi-step process. Make sure that you're talking with an immigration attorney about that. Sophie, do I think that he's going to mess with U visas? For example, the bona fide determination. That was probably one of the best things that came out of Biden, was the ability to get like a pre-approval on the U visa, because they take forever, because they can only approve 10,000 each year. And so many people qualify for the U visa. So that was one of the great things. I really hope that doesn't get taken away, but he has already said he's going to undo everything that Biden did. I don't know if that will be one of the things that he chooses to undo, but I hope not, because it was a really great improvement that USCIS and Biden made to the U visa process. But what we saw in the first Trump administration was that he went after the weakest and the most vulnerable, right? He went after the dreamers. He went after the U and the VAWA. So all of the humanitarian cases, people that actually, like, if you heard their stories, I don't care if you're just like super anti-immigrant, if you heard enough of their stories, it would probably turn you pro-immigrant. This is really bad stuff that people have suffered. So those are the people that Trump chose to go after. And that's why I call him a bully, because bullies go after the weak and the vulnerable. So I am concerned, yes, that the U visa program will definitely suffer under Trump. Sierra, can you go to visit your home country after you become a U.S. citizen through asylum? Definitely talk with an attorney about that. Generally, once you've received asylum, you've been given that because you can't go back safely to your country. So there are certain exceptions, but you definitely want to talk with an attorney about that. Skinny Man, it's true. Obama did more deportations than Trump. It's totally true. The total numbers of deportation under Trump were lower than under Obama. However, there were a lot of reasons for that. But the way, how do I say this? The way that Obama handled the deportations was kinder, if you can put it that way, than Trump. Right? Obama wasn't ripping kids out of their parents' arms at the border, for example, and then losing the kids. Like, there's still tons of kids that haven't been reunited with their parents. You guys are really going after each other in the comments. This is what's hard. The numbers, Trump's popular vote keeps dropping. It's now under 50%. So less than 50% of Americans actually voted for him, but because of the way our electoral system is set up, he still won the Electoral College. I'm hearing a lot of like conspiracy theories, like, is he actually going to be allowed to take office? I don't know. I try not to be a conspiracy theorist. But the reality is that less than half of America agrees with him. Less than half of America voted for him. So that's what you're seeing in these comments. And I'm glad to see people kind of duking it out in here because people feel very strongly one way or the other. And I think it comes down to experience. It comes down to, you know, do you have someone close to you that is an immigrant? Do you know someone? Have you heard stories? And I think with me, I've, you know, been working with immigrants for 2.5 decades now. So every day, all day long, I'm hearing stories. And so I feel like that's caused me to I don't know, to be pro-immigrant. Like, I believe that immigrants make America great, that this country that was founded by immigrants will not be better off if we kick them all out. It will be way worse. And so other people who don't have that similar experience have other biases, have heard stories from, not directly from immigrants, but from someone like Trump, who says they eat our cats and our dogs, and they drink and kill, you know, drink and drive and kill so many people. So if you're listening to one side or the other, you're going to have biases one way or another. I tend to be biased pro-immigrant. Other people who don't have that same experience are not going to have that empathy and that concern and that compassion. But I think that they're quickly going to gain it when they see the impact that mass deportations has on them personally, because nobody cares until it affects you personally, right? And that's what's going to happen. Okay, I'll return to answering questions. Adjustment of status through a citizen's son. You're waiting for receipts. You had a legal entry. Can you get detained? The great thing is that once you filed, you are in a legal status. So you're in process. It says you haven't gotten your receipts yet. You should get those about 3 weeks after you send it. If not, there might be something wrong with it. They might be rejecting it. If you mailed it with a check or have some way to track the money order, you can track whether that check or money order was cash. That's what we do. And that'll usually happen a few days to a week before you get the actual notice. You can also register online at USCIS, my USCIS, and find out details there. So hopefully you'll get those receipts soon. And I would recommend you carry those with you. That's basically your proof of status, your proof that your case is in process. Now, ICE could still say, nope, you don't have any rights. I'm deporting you right now. You need to insist in your rights, and your right is to see a judge. Your right is to talk to an attorney. We're going to be putting together a presentation in Spanish and English to make sure that people understand what their rights are if they come into contact with ICE. So we'll be working on that and preparing that soon. Great. Your case, the interview was waived. Perfect. That's like many cases that we've had for the last 4 years. It was transferred to the San Francisco field office. Perfect. So they're just going to finish processing it there. If they need anything else, they'll send you a request for evidence and you can respond to it within the time given, and then they should be able to approve it. So congratulations. Charles Davis. I always, like I said, I never know whether yourself just to get here. Place that they knew and loved, family, experiences. What was it that caused them to walk thousands of miles to the US? Just gonna let you answer that question. Put yourself in those shoes literally and think about why you would choose to do that. That's all I'm gonna say. Catherine, what's up with the all caps? I have a police report that says my husband assaulted you. He's a citizen. Do I qualify for VAWA? Absolutely. You don't even need a police report. You just need your own statement to qualify for VAWA. So make sure you're talking with an attorney. We'd be happy to help you. 541-653-8899. Do I think the processing times will start changing? Absolutely, because they will, they started under the first Trump administration, they were rejecting things if you didn't like mark one box or didn't put NA somewhere. Just stupid rejections, stupid requests for evidence for things that we'd already provided, just to mess with us, to make lives difficult, to probably make our clients think that we don't know what we're doing. So it just extends the processing times. Extends the processing times and causes delays. También hablo español. Si tienen preguntas en español, me las puede hacer. Estamos aquí en vivo todas las noches, martes a sábado. Ayudando y dando información para que la gente pueda preparar, hacer planes para, porque Trump va a estar entrando en 60 días. Tenemos 2 meses y es muy importante estar preparados. Happy to answer any other questions that you have. Anybody else happy it's Friday? I feel like it has been a long week. I'm curious if any other content creators are having issues, if they've included the word, I probably can't even say it. I might get banned if I say it, but I did a video this week comparing the detention centers that Trump has been talking about building, the camps basically to concentration camps, and, calling him essentially a word that starts with an N and ends with an I. Apparently you can't say that, you'll get blocked, or they'll warn you. So I'm curious if anybody else has had that experience. También hablo en español si quieren hacer preguntas. Any update for LGBTQ marriage interview? I think what same-sex couples should really be worried about is, frankly, like whether or not the legitimacy of their marriage will be called into question or will still be valid, or whether because here we go, family values, right? So they kind of ran on this platform of like, the left has gone too far, now we have trans immigrants getting free transition surgeries, which is not true. But anyways, so that's the level, that's the focus, right? Is we need to get back to, a man and a woman and traditional family values, which I don't agree with. I'm just saying this is what people are saying. So I'm concerned that are we going to go back to where, it wasn't that long ago. I can't remember when exactly, but it feels like within the last 10 years, probably during Obama, is when nationwide same-sex marriages were recognized, and then for immigration purposes as well. I think it's been a little over 10 years now. So are we going to go back to pre those days where you can't marry someone of the same sex, and then also because you can't marry them, you can't petition for them for immigration? I'm concerned about that. So definitely, while those marriages are still valid, they'll be subject to interviews, just like heterosexual marriages will be under Trump. That's what we saw under Trump 1.0. Mama of 5-ish, 18-year-old junior in high school, no papers, anything to help, no family with papers. If you're willing, depending on what state you're in, that youth might qualify for special immigrant juvenile status. If you're in Oregon, we'd love to talk to you about that. 541-653-8899. In certain states, including Oregon, that petition can be done up to the age of 21, and it gets them a green card. So it requires that someone is willing to take them in, be a guardian for a period of time. But it's a beautiful way for kiddos like that literally don't have any other way, because you can't apply for DACA unless you had it before. And he's at an age where he wouldn't have had it before Trump took it away 6 years ago. So we'd love to talk with him, or if you're in a different state, make sure you talk with an immigration attorney. There might be something that they can do, or they might send you to a friendly state where he could do that. Can they revoke green cards and deport? Yes. So the term is legal permanent resident, but it's not permanent. You can be deported for failing to change your address. Think about that. You have to, one of the requirements is you have to keep Immigration Service informed of every time you move. And you know why that is, right? It's for times like now where they want to round everybody up, is so that they know where you are. So you can get deported for failing to, for staying outside the country too long. So failing to change your address, staying outside the country too long, committing certain crimes, some of them even misdemeanors. So there's a multitude of ways that you can lose your citizenship. Even sometimes people in Oregon, if you get a license, you are automatically registered to vote, and people don't understand, like, they can't vote until they're citizens. So if you vote by accident, that could even put you at risk of losing your residency. So anyone who's had their residency with enough time and is eligible for citizenship, please make sure that you are filing as soon as you can. That means that you'll be able to vote. That means that you'll be safe, and you won't be, faced with potential deportation. Pris oficial, your husband doesn't have a lease or utilities in his name. What else can you use? There's lots of ways you can show valid marriage for a marriage-based green card application. And sometimes people don't even live together, right? There's many reasons why people might live apart for work or school or family obligations. And so there's lots of different ways that you can show, but mostly what immigration is looking for, they want to see that you're joining your life together. They'd love to see you living together, having kids, all of that good stuff. But, mostly like financial is what they want to look for. Are you filing your taxes together? Do you have bank accounts together? Are you paying bills? Do you have insurance? What about if either of you has life insurance? Is the other person listed as the person who's going to get the money if that person dies? So there's a number of different ways to do that. You just sometimes have to be a little creative. And if you don't have those for some reason, like maybe you're a super young couple, you're living with your parents, you just got married, you haven't opened bank accounts or anything like that, because sometimes in certain banks you have to have a social security number in order to open a bank account. So if that's the case, you can always use declarations from your family and friends that give details about your relationship, about the time that they've spent with you. Kenya, how do you get the form I-918B certified by law enforcement? You really should let an attorney do that. It's a complicated process. The whole U visa is a complicated process, and you're going to want to get it done right at the start. The U certification, that I-918B that you're mentioning is the whole basis of the U visa. And so you're going to need to know which law enforcement agency to reach out to. Was it with the city police, the state police, the county police? Was it, did it get to court? Was it dismissed? Was it, a restraining order? So there's a number of different questions that have to be answered about before you can decide where to file it and how to get that certification. We'd be happy to help you with that. 541-653-8899. MVS, so glad you're so glad that your dad is gone now. He had a green card his whole life, but he never wanted citizenship. I'm sorry for your loss. Anna Juliet, do we expect DACA changes by the new president coming in? Yes, because when he was here before, he made changes, huge changes to DACA. That was one of the first programs he went after, which I never understood, because this program, you're talking about kids who were brought here at very young ages. They did not choose to come here. They were brought here by their parents or some other family member. And so he promised to end the program. He did. There was a lawsuit that came to try to stop him from stopping the program. And that lawsuit is actually still ongoing, like 7 or 8 years later now. And the result of that was that if you had DACA before, you can continue renewing it as long as you don't let more than 1 year pass. It can't be expired for more than 1 year, but anyone who didn't have it before can't apply now. So that case is still before the courts. I would expect him to go attack it again. He also, if you remember, DACA is usually a 2-year work permit. He reduced it down to 1 year because he wanted to wind down the whole program. So that was overturned, and so it went back to 2 years. But there was just a lot of chaos, a lot of what's happening, what's going on. So I think, yes, definitely DACA, and our country had the perfect opportunity to rescue dreamers, right? There was a bipartisan bill that was passed, was like both sides agreed with it. It contained for border security, and it also would be a pathway to citizenship for dreamers. And guess who killed it? Trump. Even though he wasn't in office, he made some phone calls and enough people pulled their support of it that bill was killed. So does he still want to go after dreamers? Obviously, yes, absolutely. I think that there's going to be changes. He also ended advanced parole for a while. So big changes happened under Trump, and I expect more. So I'm encouraging people, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you really need to begin the process for your green card. Chris, you got married in September. Is it too early to start filing? No, you can file the day you get married or the day after. A lot of times what we have people do is they come and they have a wedding date set. And so we get everything prepared in order to file as soon after the wedding as possible. So definitely it's not too early to start filing. If you get approved before your 2-year wedding anniversary, if you get your green card approved before your 2-year wedding anniversary, you're going to have what's called a conditional permanent residency card. It'll be valid for 2 years instead of the usual 10. So before that expires, you're going to have to reapply showing them that you're still together, or if you're not, like what happened with your relationship. So sometimes people prefer to wait, but in our current situation with Trump taking office in 60 days, do not wait. I encourage you to file right away. Derek, we were talking at the beginning about naturalized citizens, how easy it is to revoke it. It's not that easy. It's a very lengthy court process, but in the meantime, you're going to spend tons of money on attorneys helping you. You're going to have, stress and anxiety. So it's not very common. There's historically, there's 11 cases every year. They did go up under Trump, and Stephen Miller has promised to do more this time around. Kenya, so you know which agency to get it from, but there's no help. And that's the problem, is it's completely dependent on the agency. If they have some policy that they're like, oh, it happened more than 5 years ago, even though that's not a requirement that it have happened in the last 5 years, they just make stuff up on their own. So sometimes you can talk to their supervisor, or sometimes you can threaten a lawsuit or something. But at the end of the day, if they don't want to sign it, they're not going to sign it. And they could cite a number of different reasons why they don't want to sign it. At one point early in my career, I got the media involved on a case, and I kind of regretted doing that because I'm not sure it really merited it. But sometimes you can get some, community pushback, some support. I would definitely talk with an attorney, though. There might be another agency that could do it instead. So, Kenya, it sounds like you're trying to do it on your own, which can be a little risky. You have a work permit and you're waiting for your VAWA, and your boyfriend proposed. Can you marry him? Great question. I'm so glad you're asking this, because VAWA is based on abuse that someone suffered, either physical, emotional, verbal, financial, there's all kinds of different types of abuse. So if you are applying through that and it's based on marriage to a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, that person can divorce you, or you can divorce that person, as long as that you file like within 2 years of the divorce, but you cannot remarry. So you're going to have to choose whether you want to continue your VAWA and wait that out and wait to get married, or end the VAWA and apply for adjustment through your boyfriend. But before you make that decision, you're going to have to confirm that you actually qualify for your green card through your boyfriend if you marry him. There might be some complications in your situation that would make the VAWA option better for you. Black Kite, I'm sorry. All these people that are announcing the passing of family members, I'm really sorry for your loss. Make sure you're talking with an attorney. It is complicated. Sometimes there are ways to continue forward even after the death, but it is super complicated. So you'll want to work together with an attorney about that. También hablo español. Si tienen preguntas, me las puede hacer en español. Your adjustment of status application skipped all the biometrics and the interview and went straight to review. What does that mean? That's fantastic. Probably it means that you've applied before. They've already got your fingerprints, your biometric information. So they're just fast tracking you. That's awesome. Thanks for all the follows, guys. We really are on here trying to give good information. You know, we're not going to be able to help everybody. We're actually actively hiring and trying to train up and grow our team so that we can help more. But I'm really not on here for marketing purposes. I'm on here because it helps me feel, it's really actually, it is still selfish, even though it's not for new clients, but it helps me feel better. Like I'm doing my part to make sure that people know that, that immigrants know that they're not alone, that family who have immigrants know that they're not alone, and that they get good information so they can make informed decisions. So I'm really happy that we're getting some people following us, because I think we really can do some good and push back. And as I keep saying, fight, 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 because immigrants make America great. Someone applied for citizenship for their son, but it was denied because he was born out of wedlock. Definitely have an attorney take a look at that and see what other options there might be. Shishi, are you undocumented if you've applied for your green card and you're still waiting for that? No, you're in a processing, you're like, you could call it like a status of in process. So you're not undocumented. You have your work permit. That's great. So make sure you're presenting all of that information. Is it possible to get deported if your green card is still pending? I mean, anything's possible, but I think the further along in the process you are, the safer you get. As long as you're doing everything you can to avoid contact with law enforcement. Depending where you are, you're much more likely to get detained by ICE if you come into contact with law enforcement. So it's always a great idea to stay out of contact with law enforcement. You got an approved I-601A. We're seeing tons of approvals lately. I'm glad to see some movement on this. They were taking forever. That's where there was lawsuits. We had some like pending for 5 years, but the last couple of approvals we've gotten are taking like 2 years, which is still long. But I was actually had lunch with some immigration attorneys yesterday, and we're like 2 year provisional waivers approved, and we're like, wait, why are we celebrating that? That's still really long. So your case is at the embassy. You're waiting on the interview. Will this protect from massive deportations? You know, you are in a great position where you could just choose to go and take an extended vacation or stay in your home country, or keep waiting. You know, I don't think people should just leave right away. I think that they need to, that leaving might be one of their plans that they have in place if, you know, something happens, or if they're feeling like it's time to go, then they can leave. But you're in a great position, because if you leave while your I-601A is pending, it's not going to do you any good, because you have to be in the US while it processes and until it's approved. So now it's been approved, you could leave and wait for your interview. But if you want to stay, I think you're probably safe to stay until you get your interview, depending on where, which country. Ciudad Juarez is starting to process faster again, but depending on what country, you'll just have to wait until they schedule you. When Gertie, you're a TPS holder and you're sending your green card application forms this Sunday under marriage, good. I recommend anyone with any status that has temporary in it or deferred in it, if that's in the title of your status, make sure you're doing something else, because all of those cases are going to come under attack. I think they're all temporary cases. They can be easily removed, undone, ended, whatever you want to call it. So DACA, TPS, humanitarian parole, all the paroles, all of those are going to be likely at issue. Claudia, thank you for the love. I actually have to jump off. Sorry, guys. My marketing manager is going to kill me because I'm late for a meeting. So thank you for joining me. And I will see everybody tomorrow, Saturday at lunch. And bring your questions in. Gracias a todos los que estaban aquí. Casi nadie me hablaba en español, entonces puro inglés hoy. Pero nos vemos mañana a las 12 mañana el sábado. Gracias y que ten cuidado. Be careful, everyone. We'll talk tomorrow.